Okay, good people. Good morning. Today is Sunday, February the 19th, 2023. Got to excuse the absence of Anitra. She has business to handle today with the grandbaby. So today we're going to be reading. I know y'all know seven rules of life. Let it go. Never ruin a good day thinking about a bad yesterday. And today we'll be reading Leviticus 23 to 25. And I start off with a word of prayer. Lord, thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for waking us up, clothing us in our right minds, Lord. Without you, Lord God, nothing is possible. Lord, just want to thank you for everything that you're doing in our life. Without you, Lord, we wouldn't be able to do these things. In your son, Jesus' name I pray, amen. All right, the appointed, and like and subscribe to our channel, please. The appointed festivals. The Lord said to Moses, give the following instruction to the people of Israel. These are the Lord's appointed festivals, which you are to proclaim as official for holy assembly. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is Sabbath, day of complete rest, an official day for holy assembly. It is the Lord's Sabbath day, and it must be observed wherever you live. In addition to the Sabbath, these are the Lord's appointed festivals, the official days for holy assembly that are to be celebrated at their proper time each year. Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. The Lord's Passover begins at sundown on the 14th day of the first month. On the next day, the 15th day of the month, you must begin celebrating the festival of unleavened bread. These festivals to the Lord continue for 7 days, and during that time, the bread you eat must be made out of yeast. On the first day of the festival, all the people must stop their ordinary work and observe an official day for a holy assembly. For 7 days you must present special gifts to the Lord. On the seventh day, the people must again stop all their ordinary work to observe an official day for holy assembly. It says celebration of the first harvest. Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instruction to the people of Israel. When you enter the land I am giving you and you harvest its first crops, bring the priest a bundle of grain from the first cutting of your grain harvest. On the day after the Sabbath, the priest will lift it up before the Lord, so it may be accepted on your behalf. On the same day, you must sacrifice a 1 year old male lamb with no defects as a burnt offering to the Lord. With it, you must present a grain offering consisting of 4 quarts of choice flour moistened with olive oil. It will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. You must also offer 1 quart of wine as a liquid offering. Do not eat any bread or roasted grain or fresh kernels on that day until you bring this offering to your God. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. The festival of harvest. From the day after the Sabbath, the day you bring the bundle of grain to be lifted up as a special offering, count out 7 full weeks. Keep counting until the day after the seventh Sabbath, 15 days later. Then present an offering of new grain to the Lord from wherever you live. From wherever you live. On the day of after the Sabbath, the priest will lift up it before the Lord, so it may be accepted to your behalf. On that same day, you must sacrifice 1 year old lamb with no defects as a burnt offering to the Lord. With it, you must present a grain offering consisting of 4 quarts of choice flours moistened with olive oil. It will be a special pleasing aroma to the Lord. You must also 1 quart of wine as a liquid offering. Do not eat any bread or roasted grain as kernel of the offering to your God. This is the permanent law, for you must observe generation to generation wherever. The festival of the harvest. From the day the Sabbath, the day you bring the bundle of grain, be lifted up a special offering. Cut off 7 full weeks. Keep counting until the Sabbath day until the day after the seventh Sabbath, 50 days later. Then present an offering of new grain to the Lord from wherever you live. Bring 2 loaves of bread to be lifted up to the Lord as a special offering. Make these loaves from 4 quarts of choice flour and bake them with yeast. They will be an offering to the Lord from the first day of your crops, along with the bread. Present 7 one-year-old male lambs with no defects, 1 young bull, and 2 rams as burnt offering to the Lord. These burnt offerings, together with the grain offering as liquid offering, will be a special gift, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Then you must offer 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 one-year-old male lambs as a peace offering. The priest will lift up the 2 lambs as a special offering to the Lord, together with the loaves representing the first of your crop. These offerings, which are holy to the Lord, belong to the priest. That same day will be proclaimed an official day for a holy assembly, a day of which you do not do no ordinary work. This is a permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. When you harvest the crop of your land, do not harvest the grain along with the edge of your fields, and do not pick up the harvest. Leave it for the poor and the foreigners live among you. I am the Lord your God. The festival of trumpets. The Lord said to Moses, give the following instruction to these people of Israel on the day of the appointed month in early autumn. You are to observe a day complete rest. It will be an official day for holy assembly, a day commemorated with loud blasts of a trumpet. You must do ordinary work on that day. Instead, you are present special gift to the Lord, the Day of Atonement. Then the Lord said to Moses, be careful to celebrate the Day of Atonement on the 10th day of that same month, 9 days after the Festival of Trumpets. You must observe it as an official day for a holy assembly, a day to deny yourself. As present special gifts to the Lord, do not work during that entire day, because it will be the same day of atonement when offering of purification are made for you. Make you right with the Lord your God. All who do not deny themselves, that day will be cut off from God's people, and I will destroy anyone among you who does any work on that day. You must not do any work at all. These are the permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation wherever you live. This will be a Sabbath day of complete rest for you, and on that day you must deny yourself. This day of rest will begin at sundown on the 9th day of the month and extended until sundown on the 10th, the festival of shelters. And the Lord said to Moses, give the following instruction to the people of Israel. Begin celebrating the festival of shelters on the 15th day of the appointed month, 5 days after that of the Day of Atonement. This festival to the Lord will last for 7 days. On the first day of the festival you must proclaim an official day for the holy assembly. When you do no ordinary work for 7 days, you must present a special gift to the Lord. The 8th day is another holy day on which you present your special gift to the Lord. This will be solemn occasion, and no ordinary work may be done that day. These are the Lord's appointed festivals. Celebrate them each year as official day for a holy assembly by presenting special gifts to the Lord: burnt offering, grain offering, sacrifice, and liquid offering, each on the proper day. These festivals must be observed in addition to the Lord's regular Sabbath day, and the offering are in addition to personal gifts, the offering you give to fulfill your vows, and the voluntary offering you present to the Lord. Remember that this 7-day festival to the Lord, the festival of shelters, begin on the 15th day of the appointed month after you have harvested all the produce of the land. The first day and 8th day of the festival will be the day of complete rest. On the first day, gather branches from magnificent trees, palm fronds, bar from leafy trees, and willows that grow by the stream. Then celebrate with joy. before the Lord your God for 7 days. You must observe this festival to the Lord for 7 days each year. This is a permanent law for you and must be observed in appointed month from generation to generation. For 7 days you must live outside in little shelters. All native born Israelites must live in shelters. This will remind each new generation of Israelites that I made their ancestors live in shelters when I rescued them from the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So Moses gave the Israelites these instructions regarding the annual festival of the Lord. Pure oil and holy bread. The Lord said to Moses, this chapter 24, the Lord said to Moses, command the people of Israel to bring you pure oil of pressed olives for the light, to keep the lamps burning continually. This is the lamp stand that stands in the tabernacle in the front of the inner curtain that shields the ark of covenant. Aaron must keep the lamp burning on the Lord's presence all night. This is permanent law for you, and it must be observed from generation to generation. Aaron and the priest must tend to the lamps on the pure gold lampstand continually in Lord's presence. You must bake 12 flat loaves of bread from choice flour, using 4 quarts of flour for each loaf. Place the bread before the Lord on the pure gold table and arrange the loaves in 2 stacks with 6 loaves each week. Put some pure frankincense near each stack to serve as a representative offering, a special gift presented to the Lord every Sabbath day. This bread must be laid out before the Lord as a gift from Israelites. It is an ongoing expression of the eternal covenant. The loaves of bread will belong to Aaron as his descendants, who must eat them in sacred place, for they are most holy. It is the permanent right of the priest to claim the portion of the special gift presented to the Lord. As an example of just punishment, one day a man who had Israelite mother and an Egyptian father came out of his tent and got into a fight with one of the Israelite men. During the fight, this son of Israelite woman blasphemed the name of the Lord with a curse. So the man who brought to Moses for judgment, his mother was Sheloh, the daughter of Deborah of the tribe of Dan. They kept the man in custody until the Lord's will in the matter should become clear to them. Then the Lord said to Moses, take the blasphemer outside the camp, and tell all those who heard the curse to lay their hands on his head. Then let the entire community stone him to death. Say to the people of Israel, those who curse their God will be punished for their sin. Anyone who blasphemes the name of the Lord must be stoned to death by the holy community of Israel, and native born Israelites, a foreigner among you who blaspheme the name of the Lord must be put to death. Anyone who takes another person's life must be put to death. Anyone who kills another person's animal must pay it in full, and pay a live animal for an animal that was killed. Anyone who injures another person must be dealt with accordingly to the injury inflicted, a fracture for fracture, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. Whatever anyone does to injure another person must be paid back in kind. Whoever kills an animal must pay for it in full. But whoever kills other person must be put to death. This same standard applies both to native-born Israelites and to the foreigners living among you. I am the Lord your God. After Moses gave all these instructions to the Israelites, they took the blasphemer outside the camp and stoned him to death. The Israelites did just as the Lord had commanded Moses. All right, the Sabbath year. Chapter 25, the Sabbath year. While Moses was on Mount Sinai, the Lord said to him, give the following instruction to the people of Israel. When you have entered the land I am giving you, itself must observe a Sabbath rest before the Lord. Every 7th year, for 6 years, you may plant your fields and prune your vineyard and harvest your crops. But during the 7th year, the land must have a Sabbath year of complete rest. It is the Lord's Sabbath. Do not plant your fields or prune your vineyard during that year, and don't store away the crops that grow on their land, on their own, or gather the grapes from your unpruned vine. The land must have a year of complete rest, but you may eat whatever the land produces on its own during its Sabbath. This applies to you, your male and female servants, your hired workers, and the temporary residents who live with you. Your livestock and the wild animal in your land will also be allowed to eat what the land produced. The year of Jubilee. In addition, you must count off 7 years, 7 years, added up 49 years in all. Then on the day of atonement in the 15th year, blow the ram's horn loud and long throughout the land. Set this year apart as a time of proclaim freedom throughout the land. For all who live there, it will be Jubilee year for you, when each of you may return to the land that belongs to your ancestors and return to your own clan. This 15th year will be a jubilee for you. During that year, you must not plant your fields or store away any of the crops that grows on their own, and don't gather the grapes from your unpruned vine. It will be a jubilee year for you, and you must keep it holy, but you may eat whatever the land produces on its own. In the year of jubilee, each of you may return to the land that belonged to your ancestors. When you make an agreement with your neighbor to buy or sell property, you must take advantage of each other. You may not take advantage of each other. When you buy land from your neighbor, the price you pay must be based on the numbers of years since the last jubilee. The seller must set the price by taking into account the number of years remaining until the next year of jubilee. The more years until the next jubilee, the higher the price, and the few years, the lower the price. After all, the person selling the land is actually selling you a certain number of harvest. Show your fear of God by not taking advantage of each other. I am the Lord your God. If you want to live securely in the land, follow my decrees and obey my regulations, then the land will yield large crop, and you will eat. You may ask, what will we eat during the 7th year? Since we are not allowed to plant or harvest crops that year, be assured that I will send my blessing for you 6th year. So the Lord will produce a crop large enough for 3 years. When you plant your fields in the 8th year, you will still be eating from the large crop of the 6th year. In fact, you will still be eating from the large crop when the new crop is harvested. In the 9th year, redemption of property. The land must never be sold on a permanent basis, for the land belongs to me. You are only foreigners and tenants, farmers working for me. With every purchase of land, you must grant the seller the right to buy it back. If one of your fellow Israelites falls into poverty and is forced to sell some family land, then a close relative should buy it back for him. If there is no close relative to buy the land, but the person who sold it gets enough money to buy it back, he then has the right to redeem it from the one who bought it. The price of the land will be discounted according to the number of years until the next year of Jubilee. In this way, the original owner can buy, then can return to the land. But if the original owners cannot afford to buy back the land, it will remain with the new owner until the next year of Jubilee. In the Jubilee year, the land must return to the original owner so that can return to their family land. Anyone who sells a house inside a walled town has the right to buy it back for a full year after the sale. During that year, the seller retains the right to buy it back. But if it's not bought back within a year, the sale of the house within the walled town cannot be reversed. It will become the permanent property of the buyer. It will not be returned to original owner in the year of Jubilee, but a house in a village, a settled without forfeited walls, will be treated like property in the countryside. Such a house may be bought back at any time, and it must be returned to the original owner in the year of Jubilee. The Levites also always have the right to buy back a house they have sold within the towns allotted to them. And any property that is sold by the Levites, all houses within the Levitical town must be returned in the year of Jubilee. After all, the houses in the town reserved for the Levites are only property they own in all Israel. The open pastures around the Levites' town may never be sold. It is the permanent possession. Redemption of the poor and enslaved. If one of your fellow Israelites falls into poverty and cannot support himself, support him as you would a foreigner or a temporary resident, and allow him to live with you. Do not charge interest or make a profit at his expense. Instead, show your fear of God by letting him live with you as your relatives. Remember, do not charge interest on money you lend them or make a profit on food you sell them. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. If one of your fellow Israelites falls into poverty and is forced to sell himself to you, do not treat him as a slave. Treat him instead as a hired worker or a temporary resident who live with you, and he will serve you only until the year of Jubilee. And that time he and his children will no longer be obligated to you, and they will return to their clans and go back to the land originally allotted to their ancestors. The people of Israel are my servants who I brought out of the land of Egypt, so they must